What's up, everybody? This is Dan Canobbio for Inside Boxing Live YouTube page. And today I want to talk about a fight that was recently announced. It's Tank Davis versus Ryan Garcia. And I'm excited. And I'm sure you're excited. And I'm sure you're a little skeptical as well because it's boxing. And there's always reasons to be skeptical, especially about a fight of this magnitude being made. In this video, I'm going to tell you what we know about this deal, what we don't know about this deal, how the fight will play out using CompuBox stats, and finally what this fight means for the world of boxing. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the Inside Boxing Live YouTube page. We put out shows every Thursday along with my co-host, former world champion Chris Algieri. We'll have a full breakdown on next week's episode. All right, so Ryan Garcia, Tank Davis both announced their fight on their social media. Most importantly, Steven Espinosa and Showtime Sports puts out an official statement and an email that I got saying that this fight has been agreed to, not yet signed, but agreed to for a date to be determined. And they're talking about April 15th. That's being widely reported in Las Vegas. So that is what we know so far. So we got both fighters and the network, which is very important, all in unison on wanting this fight and announcing this fight. DAZN will be a part of it in some fashion. DAZN is aligned with Ryan Garcia. As you've been following with this saga, you knew that the networks were the last thing that was in the way. There was a lot of roadblocks for this fight to be made, and DAZN wanting to be a part of it, and they should be a part of it because they are invested in Ryan Garcia. Was a potential roadblock, but it seems like that is cleared up. DAZN has not put out an announcement. They've not put out a graphic. They've not put out anything on social media. They've not sent an email to the media. I'm a little skeptical about that. As of we record this, we have not gotten that. Maybe it could come at some point. That's what we know about what has been put out there. The fighters have put out statements. Oscar De La Hoya has put out a statement. Steven Espinosa has put out a statement. Espinosa says Tank Davis versus Ryan Garcia is one of the biggest and most exciting fights that can be made in boxing. We have two supremely talented boxers, both in their prime, who have amassed huge fan bases, meeting in a career-defining fight. This is the epitome of a crossover boxing event. All credit to Tank and Ryan for staying the course and giving the fans what they want. Yes, let's go with Tank and Ryan, I said. Ryan Garcia took to social media to say this: boxing needs this right now. It's time for us to get back to what made this sport so great for the fans. Glamorous fights in places like Las Vegas, grudge match storylines, and most importantly, the best fighting the best. Tank was a little less elaborate in his comment. He said, I'll be back in the ring January 7th. Stay tuned. Tell him to get the Brinks truck ready. I love that. And then we got Oscar's statement. The fans have been crystal clear that the fight they want is Ryan versus Tank. Golden Boy Promotions and I are proud to be leading the drive to get this fight signed and are excited to finalize the deal ASAP. It is high time that those outside the ring stop getting in the way of who want nothing more than to get into the ring and fight. Our motto has always been that the fans come first, and this is another example of how we're leading by example. So everyone involved is saying all the right things. I think it's kind of funny that Golden Boy's trying to take credit for, getting the fight done. Showtime is putting out their statements. They're retracting statements. Fans don't care about that stuff. The fighters wanted this fight for a long time. Ryan Garcia has told me numerous times that this is the fight that he wants. Tank Davis, I'm sure, wants it too because it represents a big payday and he thinks he can win this fight. So those are all the things that we know right now. The only thing that's making me a little skeptical is that nothing has been signed yet. And a contract is just paperwork until they are signed. It's just literally pieces of paper. And they could put out all the social media graphics they want. They can put out all the statements they want. They need to get their names on the dotted line. And it's looking like that's good. It's heading in that direction. Catch rate of 136 pounds. They agreed to all that. I'm sure there's some ridiculousness in the contract on who comes out first, who's the A side, who's the B side, this, that, and the other. That will probably leak out over the next couple of weeks. The other thing that makes me a little skeptical here is that Tank Davis is taking a fight January 7th in Washington, D.C. Hector Luis Garcia is a name that's being rumored, 130-pound current champion who beat Chris Colbert, who beat Roger Gutierrez. Good fighter. That would be a really good fight for Tank. He's a tall featherweight. Garcia, I think he's 5'10", with a 70-inch reach. Ryan Garcia is about 5'11" with a 70-inch reach. So that would be great in DC. Build up some more momentum for this fight. But it's also boxing. You know, Tank could get hurt. He can get clipped and lose. Crazier things have happened in this sport. It is not known if Ryan Garcia will take a tune-up fight. You would think he would. I hope he does. I know tune-up fights suck and they're kind of a waste of time, but I want both fighters to be at their absolute peak on April 15th or whenever it is they step into the ring. So if that means taking fights in January and Ryan Garcia's ringside for Tank's fight, Tank is ringside for Ryan Garcia's fight, get them in the ring, build this up. Not that it needs any more build up, but get them in the ring looking at each other, you know, after a fight, after a big knockout. Them are cooking with gasoline. Because I really do think this fight is going to be huge, even if they didn't do those things. But I have mixed feelings, I would say, on these like announcements of announcements. Obviously, it's not set. If it was set, it would be, we'd have a date, we have a venue and all that. But you're giving fans a timeline. You're giving fans something to look forward to and something to follow along with, which I think boxing has failed so many times in doing. So we know that these two are fighting. We know that Benavidez and Plant are fighting in the first half of 2023. Just make the announcement, make the agreement, so fans have something to look forward to and they have something to follow along with. Are announcements for announcements kind of weird sometimes? Yes. But it also gives fans something to look at and look forward to in 2023. And 2023 is going to be awesome. Okay. So that is everything we do know about the contract, lack of signage of the contract, networks. I think Showtime will be producing the event and distributing the event. It'll also be available on the Zone pay-per-view as well. So there's two ways to order the fight. So shout out to all the suits at both networks that made this fight happen, because I think, you know, outside, these guys don't have no one else to fight. Tank Davis has, his resume has been dissected for years now. Loma is fighting Haney. Teofimo's at 140. There's no other names for Tank to fight. Same thing with Ryan Garcia. There's no other names. These guys are tailor-made for each other, inside and outside the ring. Now I will tell you about the actual fight inside of the ring, using some stats to back it up and how I see this fight playing out and why it's going to be an explosive fight inside of the ring. Styles make fights. How many times have you heard that phrase? I truly believe in that phrase. I truly believe in that notion. And it's certainly the case with Tank versus Ryan. Their opposing styles mesh very well and will make for an explosive fight. We'll start with Tank Davis. The dude walks a tightrope. If you've been following along with my content and my work, I've been telling you about Tank Davis's style, much like Canelo style, much like Jermell Charlo style. And that is low volume, high accuracy, game-changing power. No one in boxing throws less punches per round than Tank Davis. He throws 34.7 punches per round. That's the lowest of any notable championship caliber boxer today. 34.7. The lightweight average, for some context, is 57.8. Almost half. That's Tank Davis. But he has a slew of knockouts. You've seen all of his knockouts. He ranks second in all of boxing with a 47.1 power connect rate. He's landing on nearly 50% of his power shots and only throwing 35 per round. He walks that tightrope. It can be frustrating at times. He gives up a lot of rounds. His power gets him out of trouble. His power is what defines him. To me, it's one of the most exciting styles in the sport. It's a style that you really shouldn't teach, but if you can do it, then you can do it. And there's not a lot of fighters that can do it. I can count on one hand the fighters that throw under 40 punches around and have a string of knockouts. Like Gervonta Davis, Canelo Alvarez, to a certain extent. His power is starting to wane a little bit. Jermell Charlo, just to name a few. He throws so little punches, Tank, that his defense is pretty good. He has a pretty sound defense. He does get tagged a little bit in his recent fights, but, you know, every fighter gets hit. The thing is, he doesn't throw his jab. Neither of these two fighters throw their jabs. I would say 85% of their combined landed punches, Tank and Ryan, are power shots. So that's why I think it's going to be an explosive, but like kind of a chess match in this fight. So I see Tank sitting back, trying to counter the aggressive Ryan Garcia, counter him like, that's what Tank does. He's probably the best counter puncher in all of boxing, or top three. Like we did the Leo Santa Cruz. It's just what he does. It's brilliant to watch. And I can see that being the case. Going over to Ryan Garcia, you're talking about a guy that is cautiously aggressive. It's definitely the aggressor of the two in the ring on April 15th or whenever they do fight. He's a cautiously aggressive fighter with a devastating left hook. One of the best left hooks in all of boxing. Fast, precise. Only throws 42 punches around. I just told you what the lightweight average is, and that is 57. So he's well under the lightweight average as well. But he's also highly accurate, just like Tank is. Ryan Garcia lands 44% of his power shots. Has a solid jab, but just doesn't commit to it. He has reached out to me, Ryan Garcia, to express that his jab is better than the CompuBox stats illustrate. And that could be the case. A lot of fighters throw a jab, just a rangefinder. They put a jab, different types of jabs. But he only lands 2 jabs around on average. You got 2 fighters that don't really rely on their jab at all. 2 very good body punching fighters. Ryan Garcia has stopped guys to the body. Tank Davis, about 35% of his landed punches are body shots. That's something to keep an eye on in this fight, especially Tank. He's giving up a lot of size in this fight. And we've seen, guys like Canelo Alvarez give up a lot of size. And what does Canelo do? He just hammers to the body because it's right in range. So look for Tank to go to the body. Ryan Garcia kind of slow him down a little bit. But we've seen how Ryan Garcia fights. He has the size advantage. He has the length advantage, reach. He kind of puts that jab out there and tries to figure out a rangefinder. Then he follows it up with that devastating left hook. That's what he's going to do in this fight. I do think he'll push the tempo a little bit. He told me and numerous others in boxing media that he goes for knockouts. He likes to make an exclamation point on his fights. Tank Davis does too. 2 fighters going for a knockout makes for an exciting fight. 2 fast fighters, 2 powerful fighters. So I could see how this fight plays out, where Ryan is the cautiously aggressive fighter, throwing his 40 to 45 punches around, coming in and out, getting tagged, because he does get tagged when he leaves a combination, and when he gets out of the pocket, he keeps that head up. That's how a lot of people see this fight playing out, is Ryan getting caught, like fighting well early, boxing well early, moving around, because Tank simply, gives up rounds off of sheer inactivity, like I just told you. And then Ryan getting caught late. Tank is so precise. He's fought better opposition. He's a little ahead of Ryan Garcia in terms of development and just overall skill. But, man, this fight, I think, ends in a knockout either way. My early leaning is towards Tank. He's going to be a heavy favorite in this fight. But that's how I see it playing out. The range finding of Ryan Garcia, moving around early, landing some shots, getting in and out. Tank doing what he always does, walking that tightrope, looking for that opening. And we've seen Ryan down before. Seen him down. Got back up and stopped Luke Campbell. But that's how I see the fight playing out in the ring. I just think it's going to be an awesome fight. Obviously, everything around it, the hype, the amount of celebrities and athletes that will be there. But inside of the ring, it's going to be an awesome fight. That's what's most important, right? Is let's get these guys to fight 2 or 3 times. Deliver us a fun, highly contested bout between 2 fighters in their prime. That's what brings me to my last point, what this means for the sport. I can't express enough, or can't drive home enough, how important this fight is for boxing. 2022 was a great year. It's practically over, and there were over 35 either undisputed or unification bouts. We had huge fights after huge fights. We had competitive fights. We had women's boxing having a resurgence. We've seen undisputed fights this year all over the weight classes, still with more to go. But over the last month, I would say that the headlines haven't been great. Whether it's been Conor Benn testing for positive for PEDs a week before a big fight, whether it's Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua, those talks fizzling out, if you even believe them in the first place, And then, of course, the Spence Crawford debacle. Those three things right there kind of marred and left a bad taste in boxing fans' mouth. And it kind of, I wouldn't say erased, but boxing is a sport that it's a lot of recency bias. It's a lot of what have you done for me lately, week to week type of sport. Fans kind of sometimes often look past the totality of the year because it's not a league. There's no schedule, there's no standings. It's just like 1 week to the next. Like, oh, who's fighting this week? Who's fighting this week? So you kind of forget about what happened in March, April, when you get towards the end of the year. There's no denying that, things haven't been looking that great. But as we know with boxing, it's all about ebbs and flows. So this fight, Ryan Garcia, Tank Davis, two fighters under 30 years old, two fighters that have been circling each other for just the right amount of time. It's not happening too late. You can't say that. You can't say that. You could say that about Spence Crawford. Definitely happening if it does happen, it's way too late. Can't say the same for Tank and Ryan. These guys are in their prime. Ryan Garcia, 24 years old? Tank Davis, 28 years old? This is like unheard of for this era. So shout out to them for wanting this fight now and going through it. And you know what it means for the sport is that I kind of have an understanding of how big a fight is when the amount of people texting me about it that never talk about boxing and never hit me up for any other fight. DMs, just general interest, people sharing stories on Instagram. That's this type of fight. I already got a bunch of texts from people that, I wouldn't even say are casual boxing fans, but they're excited about this fight. You've seen Tank Davis fights, the type of crowd that he brings out. Madonna was at his last fight. The dude is a bona fide star, Tank Davis, selling out arenas all over the country. Athletes are all in huge into this fight. They're going to be taking sides and promoting the hell out of it and just generally excited. That's huge. Social media. I put up a clip on my Twitter about when Ryan Garcia came through the John Boy office, and he was talking about there's never been a fight in the social media era this big, where we can leverage social media in a way to promote this fight. Because what have you heard about Ryan Garcia? It's like, oh, Ryan Garcia, and then you have to talk about his 10 million whatever Instagram followers. Same thing with Tank. He's huge on social media. He's very popular. So it's a social media fight. It's a good fight in the ring. It has a lot of buzz. It's coming at the right time. It's very well needed in the boxing world. So this is a fight you should get excited about as a fan, but also just cautiously optimistic because of the contract not being signed and the fact that both guys are going to fight one more time before they get in the ring April 15th. But 2023 is looking really good. I'll end with that. It is, like we said, been a rough end of the year. There's still some big fights on the schedule, but you take a look at the first quarter of 2023. Tank Ryan, April 16th, April 15th. Plant Benavidez, March. Haney Lomachenko, I heard, is happening in March. Charlo versus Zhu is January 28th. Beterbiev versus Yard is January 28th. Catterall versus Taylor 2, the rematch, February 3rd. And Valdez versus Navarrete is also February 3rd or 4th weekend. That's just the first quarter. Wilder and Ruiz are supposed to be fighting sometime in April or May. This doesn't even count Spence's return. Terrence Crawford, they could be fighting each other. This doesn't factor in the Superflies. This doesn't factor in all of women's boxing. Heavyweights, Fury Usyk. Who's Joshua going to fight? Who's Wilder going to fight the second half of the year? So 2023 is looking already stacked, and that's just how boxing works. It's ebbs and flows, highs and lows. You're along for the ride. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Talking about Ryan Garcia and Tank Davis, a fight that all boxing fans should get excited about. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and also keep it locked to Inside Boxing Live. We have new shows weekly, usually on Thursdays, with my guy, Chris Algieri. Thanks, everybody, for watching, and I'll catch you next time.